audio works, and we'll see. I'm sorry if I'm sweating. I tell you, it's not the fire, honestly. I've I can't tell you guys how much I appreciate you guys emailing me, texting me, asking where I've been. Well, where I've been is I'm still sick. I tell you what, the sickness got me good this year. I normally don't have it for this long, and yeah, man, it wiped me out. Basically, Christmas Eve, right to bed, and let's just say I never got out of bed for 2 days, and that's pretty unusual. And I tell you what, there's just not enough YouTube videos being created out there that are during that time of the holidays because I kept watching reruns over and over, and so it was very old. I was so ready to get out of bed. So I'm happy that at least I'm moving, but I'm still getting hot flashes. So all of a sudden I'll start sweating, and I got the sinus stuff going on. So good. Good thing is I can't give it to you through the microphone, so you're safe there. But anywho, I wanted to bring this up a little bit and see if anybody has kind of heard of this because this is kind of a little bit new to me. And so Michael reached out to me, which was just actually maybe a couple hours ago. So Michael, like always, I very appreciate the emails because these things are very entertaining to me, to what kind of goes on. So let me see if I can shine a little light on this. So he says something about, I think this is his second year in business. He only does residential. He depends on Google a lot, which is kind of scary. Google is scary. I ain't gonna lie. I have the Google guarantee status. Now, if anybody knows about the Google guarantee status, that'd be awesome. Hey, Mr. Garage Door Guy 67. Hello. Hello to you. I'm happy to be alive. I'm happy you're here. So what does he say here? It says residential Google. I have the Google guarantee status, which is interesting because I don't know nothing about this. I don't. This is something maybe we could do for the affordable. Where vet you, make sure you're legit and all that, which I would hope to be because we've been on there for years. And I mean, I don't know what else we can do. We got the trucks, we got the location, we got everything. We got the men and women power. Things that have been great. Plenty of calls until a week ago. It says a scammer company has created multiple fake accounts, which is a real bummer, that somehow Google has apparently okayed since they're in the list of top of the page with green bubble and check mark. Yeah, I've never heard of any of these companies. Suddenly, boom, here they are with 55 years experience and 500 plus 5-star reviews. That's insane, man. I don't know how you can get 500 reviews and be a 5+5. Don't mind my little old man straw here. It's hard to drink. You got to keep drinking liquids, though. Keep things moving. So, garage door guy, I appreciate that. I am feeling better. At least I can move. That's the big thing. I was so stuck in bed. I was so stinking bored. It was not even funny. So guess who everyone's calling? Says I haven't got a call in 2 or 3 weeks. Yowzas. That's says I don't think there's much I can do. You know, I hear guys though on other platforms and stuff, they talk about flagging. So I don't know if it would help at all to maybe possibly flag that business and say, something of like, this ain't a legit business, I guess it can't hurt. I mean, sounds like to me, I think a lot of this stuff kind of goes on the whole money. You know what I mean? So like if they got money to funnel in there, like Google just goes, they got quite a bit of power. They're sponsoring it. They're paying for the ads. So let's have at it. Says I started to drum up business through other ways, Facebook, Google, Words, campaigns, Craigslist. So I've turned down a lot of commercial work. Because I didn't think I needed it and have never done it. So I don't know much, about it. Basically monitor sensors, loops. What does it say here? Basically, I realized didn't want to look like a fool. Don't want the door come crashing down. How can I get into the commercial side? Just jump in, pretty much. I would say, I don't know why, but my first feeling is try to stick with somebody that's got Um, I don't know why, but my first instinct tells me try to stay away from people that have docks, dock plates. Um, it just seems like when you get with dock plates, it's more. I've found it to be more challenging because there's people that um, they'll service all that, right? Maybe they'll do the dock plates, they'll do bumper seals for the semis to back into, things of that. So try to stick with, with more like ground level stuff, nothing that's got crazy slopes to it, because you got to remember too, with commercial. Now, if you can find somebody in commercial, if you can find somebody too that has the business actually will let you use their scissor lift, like DPWs and stuff like that, maintenance, a lot of those guys seem to be real helpful. You know what I mean? Like they're more than willing. They're just good old boys. You get into some of the more high end, like a chemical factory. Um, oh, I'm trying to think of some other ones. Those ones are pretty like I would not jump into those if I was just kind of starting out because they got either too many doors. Um, you don't have the manpower, you don't have the knowledge, you don't have the skill. But a lot of this stuff, really is you can figure this stuff out um, just by kind of doing it and kind of work your way through it with Google and whatnot. Not Google, I meant like YouTube and stuff like that. It definitely can help if you have somebody, like a second person, because at least two minds are always better than one. You know what I mean? And I've gotten through a lot of. Hey, it gave me a thumbs up. I appreciate the thumbs up. So two people are just better than one. Let's see. It says here, glad you're feeling better. Just seeing your last video. Yeah, I had that sitting in the queue. I never let it release. So I just finally let it release because I finally just got well enough to, I'm telling you, as bad as I was sick, I was literally leaning over the bathtub, drying myself, right? I got out of the bathtub and I literally, like, I had to like grab the wall because I fell over. Like, I was like, oh man, my equilibrium's way off. And, I got through some of the family, but I didn't do my own family. I still haven't even opened my own presents from Christmas. That's how bad it is. Cause it was like every time I get up, it's either like maybe the bathroom, and it was like, no, I'm good. I'm going to go lay back down. And that's to tell you what, if you ain't got your health, you ain't got nothing. And that's why your health is very important. I always liked it. I heard it this way once. Who'd I hear? I don't remember who I heard it through, but they said if you thought about life, right, you think about it like a car, right? Let's say you're a young man, you're gonna be able to start driving, and you only get one vehicle. You can pick any vehicle that you want, any vehicle. Doesn't care, doesn't matter the price, anything. You can pick one vehicle, but that one vehicle has to last you the rest of your life. The rest of your life. Would you take good care of it? Would you do the oil change? Would you buff it? Would you wax it? Would you keep it in a garage? Would you, do good maintenance on it? Probably. Yeah. Cause that's the only one I can ever have. So I have to make sure it lasts. Well, guess what? That's how your body is. And you got to take care of it, man. It's just the scene, roll door. Oh my gosh. What a mess. Oh, what a mess. I have ordered a rolling steel door. What do you got here? Julio says, I have ordered a rolling steel door from CHI. I don't think we have ordered rolling steel from CHI. And the thing is on that video, I was in a nutshell. I was kind of doing it a little bit, pushing for attention, because here's the thing that really irks me of all these years I've been doing this. You know, these manufacturers, they don't have to go very far. You know what I mean? They don't even have to leave their bed. They don't even have to leave their couch, their sofa, the recliner, right? They don't even have to leave it. They could literally scour across. And I've actually had some of the people, the good people from Genie. I've had them reach out to me before. Denise, I don't think Denise, or was it? I think her name was Danielle. I don't think Danielle, I don't know if she works there anymore. I don't think so. But she actually reached out to me in emails, and we've talked on the phone, and we've talked about certain things. And that's what I like. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, cool, we're getting somebody's attention. Something needs to be addressed here. Because I look at it kind of like right across the country, right? It's the small business that runs America. And without us, right? I know there's the big guys, right? And they're the big power swingers, right? But even with those guys, stuff is still not changing or happening. And it's like, look, sometimes when the cough syndrome was going on, I kept thinking to myself, look, I was like this. I was like, time out, time out. You guys are already everything's taking, 3 months, 6 months, a year to get this crap, right? What the hell is it to me for another week or two to make sure it's right? Do not let it leave until it's right. You know what I mean? And I just like, you ever kind of look at like Ford Motor Company, right? And you think about there was Henry Ford, right? Everything was built in house, the Rouge plant. I mean, just everything Americana there, right? And then now it's like we don't build nothing. Everything gets shipped in. Oh, this isn't right, and this isn't, and we can't keep spark plugs in, or whatever the case may be. We got recall, and it's like, come on, man. It's like all we need is like let's have like a good coach, at least feed me a good line of bull crap. That's how I feel, because I just this stuff is just it's just no good, man. And it's like you don't understand. Like, I mean, we already tried with that rolling steel door. Like, I was already prepping Cap, right? I was like, you probably should go up there the next day. I was like, and take everything up there and feel it and touch it, and because you're going to build the frame wrong or something's going to be wrong. And I said, all it's going to take is those fasteners going to be wrong. That you're going to have to either through bolt them or you're not going to catch it or whatever. And I said, at least now you'll know. Cause I said, if the anchors screw you on it, I said, you're done. I said, you're absolutely done. I said, so then you got two guys there that are standing around twiddling their thumbs. And what do we do now? Oh, I guess we're done for the day. And then to find that, oh man, what a kick in the junk. Mm, that's some good water. So it just gets me. It just gets me. What does it say? It says, I feel like CHI could go two ways. You could either get a really good product out of it or get a really bad product out of it. Yeah. And I think the thing is like, I think it's kind of happening. I don't think it's just one, honestly. I think it's happening everywhere. And I think what's happening is, and I don't know, you guys comment below. I mean, what do you think? What do you think? I would love to know what you think, because I don't know how it's going to change. I look at it. I just mentioned it to my dad. I said, you took early retirement because after the cough syndrome, and how many of your friends or family members did like early retirement or said something to say, you know what, I'm out. I'm out. I'm not dealing with this crap. And my dad was one of those guys that it just was enough. It's like, I'm not dealing with this pole crap anymore. And he just said, and the problem is that he's the dude, right, that needed to be there for another 3 or 5 or 6 years, that told the young bucks, hey, Junior, bam, smack him. That's not how you do that. Jesus, don't you know how to read a set of calipers? Come on, let me show you how to do this, or this is how but it's like we keep getting these newbies in. And so, I look at it like this. I go, I see this a lot, and this might help you guys in your business or come across it, or if tell me if I'm crazy. So Cap has seen this a few times. Let's say what'll happen is we'll have a commercial customer that we do work for, right? And there's a guy that's in there that we work good with. And so like we have this one place, it's a foundry place that we did work for. They had high speed roll up doors. They had regular garage doors. They had gates and stuff like that. Pretty good customer, right? I mean, the diversified, I mean, they're like a honey basket for us, because I mean, gates, high speed's not really us, but we can do it. We can power through it. We got a vendor for it. But I'd walk around with this guy, and I remember him telling me, like, I'd be like, he go, well, how about doing a little fence around this, like a little high voltage thing or something, whatever. And I'd be like, oh man. He goes, well, what do you think right off the top of your head? And I'm like, oh, I don't know, maybe like 1,500 or something like that. So I don't know until I really sit down and, measure it. And I remember he'd tell me, he'd say, hey, look, he goes, you keep it under $3,000. He goes, you got the job. And I'm like, all right. And I appreciated that. And I didn't go out there and then just do it for $2,900. I'd go back, I sit, do the math, and I'd be like, okay, maybe it's 16 or 1800 bucks to do this fencing or whatever. And that's what I would price it for. And he would always just give us the green light. Well, he ended up moving, not really moving. He was there. I think he just either took an early retirement, kind of quit, and he wasn't that old, but he was handicapped a little bit. I remember he had a really bad limp. He walked really slow, so I'd always had to slow my roll down when I was with him. But super nice guy. And another guy comes in, right? Well, they have a high speed door that goes out. And of course, I think we're just getting out of the cough syndrome. And he calls up Cap and he's like, hey, he's like, well, I need a motor. And I think he has a model number and stuff that he needs for this high speed roll up door in Albany. And Cap's, calls vendor and stuff. And the vendor says, well, it's, like 16 weeks out or something like that. So he calls him back, says, hey, he goes, I can get it, but it's 16. And he goes, I mean, he just kind of flips out on Cap, like, how do you live with yourself? He goes, I that's unacceptable. I don't know what to tell you. And what I guess what it is like, I don't really know how to say it, but it's like new dogs come in, but they don't know the old tricks. And so what they do is they're not the boss. So what they do is they'll literally chart they'll come in there and act like they're the king shit, let's say, you know what I mean? And so they want to look good, right, for their boss. And so they really start pushing hard on the vendors. And it's like they haven't learned the discipline yet that you go, look, you respect me, I will respect you. This is out of my control. I don't manufacture the motor. You know what I mean? I'm telling you. And and so if it's going to be a problem, well, call the competition. And what's always funny and what I've seen is I've actually seen these guys, they'll go to our competition, right? And it just all depends. Sometimes it's a few months, 2, 3 months, whatever. All of a sudden they're calling us back. Hmm. Amazing how that works. And so they always are like, "Oh, hey, could you by chance come over here?" Well, yeah, you know why? Because honestly, the competition doesn't even want to do your work. You know what I mean? Because they got other fish to fry. And and you're burning bridges in a sense. So you have to be careful with that kind of stuff. And I've seen it too many times. I had another one that was a chemical place, and they go through our boss always, they go through them, right? I mean, and it's like the new guy comes in and he just starts kind of acting like, well, how soon can you do this? I mean, we need this like right now. And it's like, I'm sure you do. And I look at it like this. I remember when I worked at a shop one time when we were making out bumpers for a Nissan Altima. And I remember the one guy, right? He was always real, like, he understood how the system worked, right? He'd always make sure there was an extra few racks of bumpers. So when we did changeover, there was a buffer there. Well, they started practicing lean manufacturing, and he wouldn't the other lady that came in, she always just kept, we need to do a changeover. We need to do a changeover. And she kept changing the machine over. Well, it takes a while to tune in the machine. We'd have so much scrap and stuff, and she just did not understand it. And it was like, I got to a point where I said, you know what? I look at it and I go, I don't respect you anymore, because I mean, she'd come out there and it's like, we need parts, we need parts. And it's like, yeah, I got that. But the guy that used to be here that was in charge, like, he made sure we put a few extra parts and he would stash them off to the side. So we had a buffer. And now you just keep you're running us ragged. You know what I mean? So it gets to be complicated sometimes in these companies when people change, and that's unfortunate. So yeah, Mr. Garage Door Guy, my grandfather did. Yep. That's, I've considered, what does it say? I've had consistently good experience with their rolling steel doors, but says the door panels seem to have lower quality, in my opinion. Yeah, that's a bummer. And that's the thing, I honestly, I can't say I've ever found like the perfect match made in heaven, because there's a lot of layers that goes to this stuff. I mean, you think about it, it's like you need the customer service, right? When you make that phone call is so stinking important. You know what I mean? Somebody that picks up, hi, how are you doing today? What can I do for you? Oh, what are you looking for? I mean, somebody that can work through the problems that you're having. I mean, it's such a huge help, a huge blessing. And but if you get somebody that just, what do you want? You don't even know what model you want. Call me back when you figure it out. We got some. Clope is one of them actually. I don't know if they still are. If they still got Mister. I don't want to say names, but the one guy that answers, he's always a real treat. Let's see. Yeah, I can agree with that. I feel like I had most my luck with overhead doors. Well, that's cool. Got to wipe my face a little bit. Like I said, I feel that cold sweat coming on. It's weird how it happens, but yeah. But like I said, I don't know how we can change it, but I wish a lot of these manufacturers, like I said, would watch videos. And like I said, I always put my email. Some of them even have my number. Contact me. Contact me. I will be happy to come down free of charge and take a look at whatever you got to try to help the fellow man, because it's like they just don't understand what we're going through in the field sometimes. And I mean, what a headache now for that rolling steel to not have those clips on it. I mean, it's just and the money that is lost is just, oh man, it's just amazing to me how much money gets lost in this stuff. It's just, it ain't fun. So anywho, so I was just curious too. I wanted to ask. Oh, here's another little helpful tip, possibly. Well, first, let me ask, what do you guys do for the holidays? If you guys work for anybody or you do your own, I always look at it like I try to go off our vendor. We used to go off Wayne Dalton, and I always just kind of did what Wayne Dalton normally did. So if Wayne Dalton had certain days off, instead of making it a big fiasco, that's what I would do. I mean, it's like if they have those days off, then we can take those days off too. At least that's what I did when I was kind of in charge. I know Cap, he might have a little different perspective, and it all depends on the workload too. Um, but sometimes you just can't fight gravity, is what I've kind of figured out in the old door business, because even if you go out there, sometimes like your vendors aren't open, so you don't have the resources. Tech support's not there. So if you're sending guys out, all kinds of weird stuff. Oh, what does it say here? Overhead door dealer for a couple days. Ooh, nice. That's kind of fun. Like I said, I'd like to if I had a little more time, but I'd like to get out. Um, I could probably, if I have to, if I got to make time, but I'd like to get some garage door gurus out there, because like I said, when I've traveled out to other door companies, it's just, you learn little nuggets like what they do. And like I said, with that one guy, I remember, Mexican guy I was working with, he showed me how to get those dents out of those 9000 series doors, and man, he was so proud, and he did a really nice job. And I thought to myself, dude, do you know how valuable you are to this company for doing that? I mean, I wouldn't even like, I don't know. It just wouldn't have happened. I would have, whatever. Hey, we got to get him another section. It's dented. And this guy like pokes a hole in the back, and he takes like a bigger nail, and he works that dent out, and it looked just as good. And I thought, heck yeah, roll with it, man. Because if, if the customer doesn't, if it looks good, which it did, it looked perfectly fine. He had a hole, and I forget how he patched the hole in the back. I figured if he just put a little plug in it or something, because where he did it was really, you couldn't even notice it. And I thought, man, that's a great idea, because, all the time you lose, you know, and that's the biggest thing in this business, is that you'll lose a lot of time, and time is money. Because it seems like in the business, there's only a couple ways you can make money. One, raise your prices. Two, become more efficient. That's about it. You know what I mean? There's really no other magic to it. It's either you raise your prices, or you become more efficient. Like, oh, I don't have to make another stop at the shop, or oh, I forgot something, so I got to go back to the shop, which is going to cost time. Because the thing is, you always got to remember that when you're doing all those things, you could be out at another job fixing another customer's, another service call or whatever, and the liability too, right? Because every time you're transporting is more time on the road, which is more dum dums to either hit you or just something to happen. You have a malfunction or all that kind of stuff. What's Julio say here? Do you guys do you commercial customers options? Ooh, I like the example. For example, I have a Wayne Dalton replacement panel that's double the price. uh, well, that's a good question. Here's the thing. I guess I'm not much of one to mismatch. So, Julia, on that, I'm not much of a person to mismatch door panels. I do believe there's some companies out there that make those strips, aluminum strips, so you can convert them depending on the grooves, tongue and groove or shiplap or whatever of that nature. So for me, it's always been kind of like, I look at it like, it's a Wayne Dalton, you're gonna get a Wayne Dalton section. And I know what you're saying with the sections being extremely priced. I think there was only one I really ever messed with a lot because what was it with overhead? Overhead would you could get the what was it, the Richard Wilcox, I think is what they were called. And those would match up to the certain model of overhead garage doors because overhead garage doors are extremely expensive if you try to buy them from them. And boy, I've struggled over the years with painting them. Um, I'd buy white ones and they'd brown ones, and I would spray paint them, and I'd go to match them up on the business after hours to make sure it looked as close as possible, even though it's not going to be perfect because the sheen's going to be off since some are faded. Um, so I don't really ever mismatch, but I would agree with you that garage door sections are like, I mean, to this day, I would cringe. Like if you go to a customer, like especially residential, it's like they got two garage door panels that are smoked on the bottom. They ran into it with a car or whatever. It's I don't know why. I guess it's just the way it is. Like that's how they make their money. But it's really sad because I always felt bad. Like I'd be like, I tell the customer, I'd be like, this is where we're at. And I typically would already have a price of a brand new garage door. And I tell them, I say, look, I say, if we do the two garage door panels, for one, the color, the sheen is not going to match. So take that with what it is. And I would literally almost sometimes jack up the price. And it wasn't even like I had to jack it up. It was like just add on another couple of $100 or whatever, and you're pretty much there. And I would say, look, I'd say, so for this price, I can replace your garage door sections. I said, or for this price, I can replace the whole garage door. Just remember, your garage door is already, I've already looked it up, or I can tell it's probably about 8 years old. Your garage door springs already have all the wear, your hinges, your rollers. I mean, so here's the thing too. If I put a brand new garage door in here, I'm going to warranty it for a year. I said, I put these garage door sections in. I said, something happens 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later. I said, you're going to pay me this. I said, and then everything after this is a service call, which is, I don't know what service calls are like 120 or something like now, 140. I said, so, you know, and they normally would just replace the door, which was really sad. I hated doing it. I really did because it's just sections are just ridiculous in price. It's, um, I always looked at it like this. I always explained it to people. I said, well, I said, unfortunately, I said, this is the world we live in. And so what I would tell them is I'd say, go to AutoZone and I say, try to build a car. Well, that'd be ridiculous. You're right. It would cost you so much money, so much time, so much labor. I mean, the stuff's all marked up, right? I mean, you would just your head would explode. I'm just gonna go to the dealership and buy a brand new car. Why would I assemble one from AutoZone? That's just ridiculous. Well, that's how I tried to explain to him. I was like, unfortunately, they mark these parts up. I said, this is not my doing. I said, but here you are. I said, so either pay this or buy a brand new one, which I always like try to recommend. I say, hey, you get a new weather seal, It's the colors all going to match. I said, and it depended. I mean, sometimes I always felt the situation out. Obviously, if they're like, it's a widow lady, you know, you got to do what you got to do. You got to help her out or find the cheapest, but sometimes still it was cheaper to put a brand new door and just not have to worry about it. The door is going to be off a little bit. Such a door texture would just inform customer, let them make the decision. Mm, I don't know, Julio. I think it's hard to say. It really is because um I don't know. Sometimes I just kind of draw the line where it's like money's not even the culprit, you know. I know it means stuff to people, but I'll just how do you explain it? It's kind of like my way or the highway, because I look at everything right now. Now that I'm an older seasoned vet, I look at everything and I go, my name's on this. And I sure as hell do not want to come back to this. Like, I want to do this and I want to be gone. I want to get paid. I want to be gone. I don't want to come back. I don't want no problems. I mean, I want to make it so idiot proof that like I don't want a coworker. I don't want an employee. I don't want my dad. I don't want my grandpa. I don't want nobody coming back to this. And they go, now, what in the hell were you thinking? Why is this gotta? That's what's wrong with it. You ain't got no gas in it. Yeah, that's how I look at it. Like I go, why you got a clopay? I don't win. Are you stupid? Like I just that's how I look at it. I look at it and I go, yeah, I don't put Ford parts on Chevys. You know what I mean? Like it's just you know what I mean? Like I might do it for myself if it was my own like backyard deal or something, my own barn. But when it comes to customers, like I need everything to match. I need the next guy to come out and the numbers to match. So it's simple for him. I'd be like, look at the side of the door. It's got a newer sticker on it. You know what I mean? And he's like, well, it must be a clopay. And then we were trying to order, you know what I mean? It's like I'm always a like very advanced person. You know what I mean? Like I'm looking out for the future me, the future technician, and that's just how I roll. It's not to say it's right or wrong. It's just a lot of times the customers don't know. You know what I mean? I mean, I know there's a price, but they come to you for the guidance or for the experience, and that's why we hold a lot of weight, right? I mean, um, it's good to be king, but the crown is heavy. It's we have a lot of responsibility. We have to be the experts, and sometimes it sucks. It really does. Unfortunately, you might not be a vendor of Wayne Dalton, so they're charging you more. And that's just how I've had it too. I've had Haas. I've had to travel down to a guy that's got a barn, and the guy was really cool. He just like let me into his barn. He have stacks of stuff. I never met the guy. I went down there like 2 or 3 times, and he always tell me it's on top of the stack. Just help yourself. And I'd send him, a payment through the mail or whatever. And and I just thought that's how the garage door industry, like we can trust each other and we're good old boys. And I just go down there and take what I need and shut his barn doors. It was a really cool barn. And but yeah, I don't know. I look at it like it's a Chevy, put the Chevy parts on it. That's just me. If it costs more, it sucks. Yes, but I don't want the future guy to be like, I don't know what you're doing. What model is this? That's just my 2 cents. Mr. Tony Miller, it's good to hear from you. Hope you're doing well. Yes, doing better. Says you want to last a long time. I mean, like I said, I've always figured out in the garage door business, it wasn't like, I think a lot of it comes down to sometimes you're trying to predict the future, and the next person that comes behind you might be you, and you don't know what kind of day that's going to be. Girlfriend got into an accident, you're having a kid, your dog just got killed, parent just passed away. I mean, all these scenarios, right? This could be in 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 years, But like, I look at stuff and I just go, I want it to be like, I don't want to think about it. Like, I just want to look at it and go, oh yeah, this thing's had, how do you make stuff simple? Make it simple, because I've tried, like when I worked for one place, they'd make so many relays and stuff instead of buying the right adapter. That was like another $100, $200, and they'd give us a diagram. And it was like, we would sit there like Frankenstein and wire this thing all up in relays and logistics and limit switches to make like three garage doors come together and in sync, one interlocks. And it was the most stupidest thing where it's like, oh, we could have bought the kit. It was like $200. And it's like, well, that's the stupidest. Like, you just had us, two technicians out there for 2 days that you paid us. Oh yeah, but did it work? No, but your diagram sucked. So I mean, it's like, and then the problem is now you have like no tech support, right? So now the only people in the world that know how to work on this thing is us three, right? Because there's like the guy that drew it up, and then us that were out in the field that actually made it work. And it was like, now nobody else knows how to work on this thing. It says doing it right now the first time. What does it say? Is pay me now or pay me later, right? That's how I look at it. So it's not, I don't know. Like I said, the older I get, the more I look at it, I go, a lot of stuff you just don't want to take shortcuts, because it'll come back to bite you. And you just got to think smart on a lot of things. Drink my water like the old man. And a lot of this stuff can be kind of avoided, if you really think about it. So just, I remember when I did these Richard Wilcox sections. Man, I tell you what, I remember I painted one in my barn. I took so much pride painting it. And man, I painted it. It was supposed to be brown, but turned out more like a red. And luckily it was on the back of the building. But I remember we went to install them and it looked like crap. And because all they ever would have is white sections. And then they hit them again. And I thought, okay, this time I'm going to get that brown closer. So I go out there, and I think they had a fake camera, but I was always worried because I was behind their building, like after hours. I'd go back there and I'd like, because I was nervous. I was young and green into the commercial business. And I wanted to make it as good as I could, right? But they had overhead. I remember had overhead doors, and I thought, God darn them with these overhead doors. And then they hit one. I remember I had to take the windows out, and they got those weird bubble windows. And so I spent like a whole weekend cleaning the sections and getting the bubble windows in there and getting them set out right. And then, I painted it. I remember the sections. I should go back there sometime. I should take some pictures or a little video of it. Show you guys, see what because I don't know if they use somebody else now. But I haven't heard from them in quite a long time, so I don't know, but they used to get semi trucks that hit it all the time. Just a one single door, ground level door in the back of the building. And I remember I had a lot of high lift. It was a big door. It was either 12 or 14 wide by like, I think it was 16 tall. So it was kind of a big guy. And I remember they had a lot of scrap metal in that back area a little bit. But yeah, man, painting doors. Oh man. And then I remember I did one, which I don't know. Maybe you guys have experienced this. I did one through Wayne Dalton. And I remember my vendor of Wayne Dalton at the time basically made it sound like they were doing they might still do it. Is it True Choice or True Color like that? And the certain, and of course you know how it is, right? I sell the whole thing, right? I'm sitting there, the customer's not close to the shop at all. They're like an hour and something away. I go through the brochure and they're like, well, I want this color. And can you make sure it matches? And they got me a sample of something. And we decided on a model of a door. And I got the numbers right. I spent all this time getting everything right and the time down there and meeting them and detailing. And so I go down there, and then I remember I go to order this thing. And my vendor lady tells me, she goes, we don't do that color in that model. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? You're joking, right? You're joking me, right? I just sold this with this model, with this color. It's in your brochure. Oh yeah, we don't. You have to go to like a bigger, they sell it in the more high-end model. Oh, of course they do. Well, how much is that? Oh, that's another six or $1,200. Six or $1,200. I don't have that priced into my bid. You know what I mean? And I don't want to go back to this person and look like a fool and be like, oh, well, I screwed up. And yeah, can you eat this another $1,200 that I'm not making no profit on it? And it just looks shady, right? And so I remember somehow they found out they could do true choice or whatever. So we could match the color. So we can make it work. So we're gonna do a 9,000 series door. I forget if it was a 91 or 96. I can't remember. Probably did a 96. And so okay, so cool. Well, for whatever reason, it was going to be at the time. I think they charged like $300 for that true choice, and so I'm basically going to eat it. I'm like, whatever, screw it. I just kind of whatever. It's just money. It's just money. Whatever. And so they do it for me, and seemed kind of hesitant, but they did do it. And so I get the door. I remember I was installing the door and didn't think much of it. It's all packaged nice, cardboard, everything. And I remember on the outside, I'm putting the trim on, right? They gave me, it was a green trim and the door was green. And I was looking at the door and the sun was on my back. And as I'm putting the trim in, I kept looking at the door and I kept going, God darn, man, bird must have pooped, and was like in a flight, like it flew and it like sprayed the door in a sense. Cause it was like little splatters. And I was like looking at it. I'm like, God darn bird pooped on the door, and I'm kind of like looking over my shoulder now. Crap on me too. What the, you know? Then I start looking over far. There's more of it. I mean, and I start looking down. I mean, I'm looking everywhere. It's everywhere. Like, what the? Well, I start looking at it. To me, it looked like, I don't know how they do it for sure. Almost like they took a roller and they rolled on top of that door. That was a white door. So in the really deep crevices, and it was only if you looked really close, you'd see pin marks of white in it. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, oh my gosh. Well, luckily this wasn't a garage that was attached to the house. It was a separate garage. And I just thought, oh my gosh. Like I started getting to one of those moments where I was like, this job was too far away. They wanted to match this color. I made it happen. I've already lost money on it. I hope they don't call me out for this because now I'm gonna have to go back because the vendor was I think they helped me out on the price a little bit because I was like, your brochure shows it. Like, quit sending me brochures that has your stuff in it if you don't have it. So what a pain. So things you learn. Would it be best to replace a commercial motor that is always overheating? That's a great question. Possibly. I look at this stuff nowadays. A lot of the stuff is like loaded. It's like a loaded gun. Because, right. So I go back to that when I did that road commission one, right? And I remember I had a really old, I think it was from like the 60s or 70s opener on there. And that thing would be up there and it'd just be chattering, it was a jack shaft opener. And I remember, we kind of got to that point, like we're sick of working on this thing, like it just needs to go bye-bye. You need to get up to today's standards. It needs to get replaced. It's just, well, of course, how that goes, right? You go to, so now you upgrade. Well, now you got all the new safeties, right? You got safeties, you got electronic circuit boards. And so, that's what we did there, right? Well, and I already convinced the customer. I'm like, you really should replace this thing. And they did. And I remember it was like, gosh, only like 3 months later, he calls me and he's like, hey, he's like that, that door, how it is, right? It's like, bring, bring. Hello. Hey, Dave, that opener you just put, on about like 3 months ago? Yeah. What about that opener? It's pretty damn nice, isn't it? It was a good choice, wasn't it? Oh, no, actually, it quit working and it looks like it probably threw the cable and the chain fell off and hit the top of a vehicle. You need to come down here like right now. That wasn't the phone call I was expecting. You know what I mean? I go down there, remember, and it's like because they have a brass bearing instead of a rolling bearing in the chamber or lift master, it wore through prematurely. I don't know why, and it broke into the casing. So then it even put a pretty big groove into the shaft. So but yeah, overheating is always a tough one, because the thing is though, is there might be more to it. Might want to have an electrician, or if you think you can figure it out yourself, you might want to check the voltages as it's running because there might be something that changed on the building. I've had that happen. They hooked up a machine or something, just got, a mouse chewed through something and the voltages, it's only working on one leg. Is it a capacitor? Is a door, something wrong with the door? Um, so it's kind of hard to say because I used to when I was younger. I was always big and just replace it, just replace it, just replace it. And now sometimes I go, sometimes the older stuff is better than the newer stuff. So it's kind of like, for instance, let me give you an example. Here's a great example. Kind of applies. I had a well pump, right, in an old building of mine. I go down to this guy that rebuilds them, right? That's all he does. He rebuilds well pumps, pumps that pump your water into your house, irrigation, whatever. And I remember he's telling me at one time, he says, and I figure he's giving me the sales pitch, but he says, the older pumps are better than the newer pumps. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I was like, I was kind of green and young. And so anyways, he tells me that I got a pump repaired there or something. I moved on, right? Well, the pump in the barn or whatever went bad. So it was on the weekend. And I thought, well, I got time right now. I'm going to run down to Home Depot and I'm going to buy me a pump, and I just thought I'd buy one from him, but he's darn near the same price for a used pump versus a new pump. And I don't use this very much. This thing, I mean, barely ever gets, it's used for like watering the dog or something, like you need to water just to wash your hands. Screw it. I'm just going to go down there. I'll get a pump. A pump's a pump, right? A pump is a pump. Excuse me. So I I go down to old Home Depot. They sell these things called Everbuilt. Don't ever buy them. They are the biggest piles of junk. You will thank me later. So I buy this pump and take it home. I realized right away it says that on the package that if the motor doesn't start right away, that you might need to take a screwdriver. Yes, men. Let me repeat myself. You may need to take a screwdriver, a flat-headed screwdriver, to turn the motor to start it. What? What if this was for my grandma? What if this was for my mom? What if this was for my wife? What? Like, I got to tell them, hey, grandma, mom, babe, this part, when this pump first starts up, you got to take a screwdriver and stick it in the back where it could like go zing and rattle, rattle, rattle and like kick out a screwdriver at you. Sounds pretty safe, doesn't it? I thought, okay, well, this is like, it's probably a one-time deal, right? Like it's just a one-time, like it's just for manufacturing because when they oil it or something, they use special grease or whatever, and it's just for the first time. So anyways, I get this thing hooked up, I kick it off, right? What do I gotta do? I gotta take the screwdriver. And because when you first turn it on, what's it do? It just hums. The motor doesn't even like move. So, I ain't stupid. That ain't good. So I turn it on, it hums, I take a screwdriver, I quickly stick it in the back, give it a twist, it does its woo, and it runs, and I'm like, okay, whatever. We're good, right? Oh no. This thing seems to do it every time. It doesn't. I think I got up to about like 20 or 30 times of starting and cycling this thing, and I got it to finally prime. That it was kind of like, you know what? I think I'm over this. Like, I think I'm taking it back. Something's not right. So I take it back. They replace it. Get the next one, thinking, oh, hallelujah. Hope this one works like a dream, right? Nope. Long story short, does the same problem. So I thought, well, I'm buying the junk, right? So what do? I go and I buy the next one up, right? The next better unit. I'm thinking, okay, it's because I'm buying the cheap one, right? So I got to spend another 100 or $200. I'm going to get a better premium one. I get it. It's still not working the best. It works, but it finally caught probably about a few months later. I went into my garage and I could smell something burning. And I'm like, what is that smell? Like, yeah, it smells like something. Oh my gosh. I go over there and I feel the motor and it's screaming hot. So I shut it off, right? So I disassemble this thing and I take it down to my pump guy. And I have to go in there and do the walk of shame, right? I said, "Hey, man, look, I'm I bought this cheap pump that you told me not to do, and I'm really retarded. And I'm so sorry, but I already bought it. I already committed. Like, can you try to like? It feels too tight." And he's feeling on it, right? And he goes, "Yeah, it feels like they got too many shims or something." He goes, "I'll take a look at it." And I'm like, "Okay, thank you." So he looks at it, right? A couple days later, gives me a call. "Hey, I pulled a few shims. It seems to be working good now." And mind you, I can't find a pump yet that's worked a whole year yet, right? This has all been happening within a month or two or three or whatever. Like I haven't had a pump yet. So that pump that he fixed now, that's still the cheap Everbuilt one I bought from Home Depot. I take it and it lasts for about a year. And I remember it finally puked out, and it happened towards like a holiday. I can't remember if it was like Thanksgiving, Christmas. I can't remember because I yanked it off. I threw it back in the box. I kept the box. I just had a feeling about something. And I was so irritated that I took it down there. And I think I told the lady, I was like, I wanted a refund of some sort or something like that. Anyways, I remember she reached in the box to look at it, right? She's like, touches it. She's like, oh my gosh. She goes, this thing's pretty hot. She goes, you must have just took it out. I said, yeah. I said, kind of, it's not fun when you don't have water. Obviously, I didn't tell her it's, just for my garage, but anywho, so regardless, I went back to the guy, right, that I was embarrassed to. And I said, hey, I said, I even brought him back, I think one of the cores or something. And I said, here, I said, I don't know if you can use this. I said, but, throw it away. I don't care, but I don't want it. But I said, I want a pump that works. "Oh, I got one over here, it's an F&W. So he pulls it. He goes, let's make sure it works, and he puts power to it. And I remember the thing sparked. It turns on. Woo, it's running. And I said, I like that. He goes, well, normally they don't spark that much, but it's just because and I said, no, 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 no. I said, that's awesome, dude. I said, and he explained to me, like, these older ones and stuff like that have two capacitors on it. He says, like with the one that you had, only had one capacitor, like because some of them are like a start capacitor and some are like a run capacitor. And he said, yours only had maybe like the start, but not the motor run or something, I don't know. But I just thought, I want something that works. I mean, so it's hard to say because things keep changing, and that's what really irritates me sometimes is that this stuff keeps changing. Kind of like the LiftMaster, the ATS. I was an ATS fanboy, and so Mr. Justin Johnson, it's good to see you. Howdy, howdy. Making the change. What? Come on, Tony, spill the beans. What's this change they're talking about? After 1/1/24, what change are they making? The only change I know has happened in the first year is uh, Gosh, your guy here center. More changes. Oh no. That's right, man. Come on, Tony. Give us the news. We don't need no changes. Not unless they're gonna be for the better. I had somebody comment, maybe you guys know this too. Are you still not supposed to put the LED light bulbs in the LiftMaster? I figured by now they already had it so they could accept it because I thought I've never came across them. I can't even know if I've seen them at my vendors where they have the LiftMaster light bulbs, like actually, because Genie always had the LEDs for the longest time. I mean, I remember that was always the gimmick, right? We'd be at the seminars and stuff, and they, go to chuck you a light bulb, and somebody, and they do it too short, so they drop it, and you're like, oh, waiting for it to explode or break, and they're like, it's tough. Oh boy, what are we doing? Oh yes, commercial openers all can be programmed from the floor, but they're going from AC to DC. Ugh. Man, Tony, man, I'm so glad you brought that up. I'm with you on that, brother. I don't know, man. What do you guys see with the DC motors? That do you like? I mean, here's the thing. What I was told one time, even like with the residential ones, the person was telling me, you know why they make DC motors? I mean, this was like a sales guy, and I was like, I don't know, because they're like smoother, and he goes, because they're cheaper to make. Oh, burn. I don't doubt it. I personally don't like DC. I guess my first one is because like a gate operator, right? I did a gate operator. Remember, it had battery backup. It had the plastic cover. It was a linear, and it seemed like such a small motor, and it just everything seemed like it was struggling, right? But like units that I've used with AC, even just like uh, gate operators, not gate operators, garage door openers, commercial and that. I mean, Davy Boy here don't stick his fingers in that crap. You know what I mean? It's kaboom, it's fires and it's power, baby. But yeah, DC's got soft. Like I feel like we're going on this a little bit too much of this whole like, well, it's got the soft start and soft stop and yeah, but the working man that's in that big old international or that Peterbilt don't give a rat's ass. Like he wants this thing to open and close for his business and for his employees and for his workers and what like he wants the puppy to run and work. So I feel like they're gonna probably give us a sales pitch, is my guess. Kind of like, oh, it's better for this, and it's like, yeah, it's better for your pocketbook, is what it is. A bean counter. Ah. Says no, Dave. That's still a problem with the lights. I believe. Well, that's a bummer, man. Those LEDs. It says, I see it as DC being like a electric car versus AC being a 69 Chevy. Might be old and loud, but outlive any new unit. That's how I am, man. I'm like a 350 Chevy guy, you know what I mean? Because that's what I used to go to when I was a kid, right? We used to go to the demolition derby. And I mean those old, like the 70s and the 80s, and I mean those old square body Chevys. I mean, they'd just be smashing, and those there'd be like two left down to the, and normally it's because one blew a radiator, and finally the motor would heat up enough, and I mean it'd take a while, it would lock up, but I don't even know if they can do demolition derbies anymore, probably because they all the new technology. I mean, they got impact sensors and all that would shut them down. So, dang, man. So it's like you almost need to like buy a couple skids of openers, in the commercial world, you know. Remember that's how it was like kind of like the ATS. It was like I kind of gobbled up. It was like, oh, you're not gonna get no more. And I'm like, please, no, don't take my ATS with my mechanical limits away, you know. Commercial operators after the first year DC motors battery backup. Oh my lord. And they're going to be cheaper, right? I mean, they're going to save us all kinds of money, but battery backup sounds more expensive. But don't worry. I figured, I thought they already did that where you could program these from the floor. Like I kind of thought I heard something about like if you hold the open button, it manipulates the circuit board it would make it so it goes into a program mode. I don't know if they ever came, like maybe that was something that was coming and it just never came yet. Cause I did think about that the other day. I was at a customer that me and Cap did. And then I think he had to go back to their program. And I thought I was going to tell him, say, hey, I could go do it. But then I started thinking, I thought, oh crap. I think the electricians are out of there. I really don't have a tall enough ladder. I could probably scrounge up something. I was there working on a gate operator though. And I thought, well, man, it sure would be nice if I could just do it from the ground. So, I mean, that would be nice. I could see where it might affect service techs a little bit because maybe it's like, you lose a service call out of it because now a homeowner or, the owner of the shop could do it. But I don't know. It was never good. I wouldn't want to being up there playing with buttons. It was always tricky too with the learn button on the Lift Masters, especially the commercial, the radio learn. When you gotta like push it and then you push your thing and then you gotta wait for it does this blink but then you gotta get it out of the blink, then hit it again. Where it wasn't like the Resis where it's like it click, it learned, and you're like, oh, you're good. You hit it again, it works. Kind of weird. This is like to lighter weight. Oh, I'm afraid they don't have the power. Yeah, that's tricky, man. That power. You know what I mean? Because you know how it is. You've been out there just like me, and you're on that weird door that you're just like, I need this thing to be like, and the customers down there just with their arms crossed watching you. Yeah, charging me $1,600 for this, $2,500. This son of a biscuit better know what he's doing, and you're sitting there like, God, I hope this thing works, and it's not working quite, it's freaking out, like it's got too much safety on it. It's all like chugging, or it's like shuts itself down halfway. It's like, too much energy, not enough power or something. And you're like, bull crap, I've checked the voltage. It's there. It worked fine with this other one that's 60 years old. This god darn new one won't work. Worse than it has already with residential. Oh, man. Plus, they're going to be, whoa, $200 more, says the vendor. Jeez, man. What a bummer. With the, dang. $200 more. And the worst part is I feel like it's going to be $200 more for, I don't feel confident for a better product. That's the sad part. That's why I went with the Chamberlain product, because I wasn't bad at paying $1,000 for an opener. Man. Buy them now while they're still around. Crazy. Man, Tony, I'm so glad you brought that out. That's nuts though, man. I just can't believe. That blows my mind still. I don't think I'm gonna be able to sleep tonight now. I just can't believe that. I wonder if Genie's got anything up their sleeve, if they're gonna do anything. Because sometimes these things kind of work in correlation a little bit. I hope not. I hope not. I was always kind of a little bit more of a fanboy of the Genies because I like that. I forget how you guys kind of the terminology you call it, but they still did like the dry contacts, where basically you could just take two wires, touch it, and make the openers run on the residential side. Genie, yeah, GC, they do have a lot of DC. There's pros and cons to that. Yeah. Trust me. Like I said, when it comes to the Genie, to me, it's just who is the cleanest shirt in the dirty laundry basket. They're all dirty. It's just they're the cleanest to me, and that's why we haven't had too many. They do have their problems. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there's no doubt about it, but, man, hey, come on, guys. Maybe we need to start supporting Power Master. Power Master. They're probably still sticking with the old tried and true. I'm gonna look them up right now, actually. See what they got. The bad part is that there's just not very many. Um, I got Power Master garage door opener. Now that's an old tried and true right there, man. I'm telling you. Says you can buy it for $831. It's not too bad. It won't focus. I don't have this on autofocus. Son of a biscuit. Anyways, it's right there. Look at that. They got it. I know it's they got it right there. It looks like the old tried and true. It almost looks real similar to this red guy. But that guy they want 12, basically 1300 bucks. Suppose this is 13 if you do this is a Model H. Which one's this? Model H 3/4 horse. They're pretty close. This other one's a J, so it's a little bit cheaper, but telling you, might be time just to go to the old Power Master and ditch the rest of that technology. Man, that's crazy. When I seen those guys, I was pretty impressed. And we've had pretty good luck. They've sent us out circuit boards if we had a problem, which was very rare. And the customer that did have the circuit board problem, they were having voltage problems too. We found that kind of out afterwards down the road. They had an electrician come and fix it. So it might have not even been their fault. And it just seemed real suspicious that they were having problems with the circuit board. Their tech support though, the only thing it was like, they're not constantly there, kind of like LiftMaster in a sense, but they get back to you, and sometimes you're not at the job. But I think with Power Master, if you surrounded yourself with them, I think you'd be doing all right. Like if you made sure you had some stuff in stock, where you could swap it out. I think they'll take care of you. And it was commercial. Oh yes, yeah. They're from the rumors I was told, I could be wrong. The Power Master, Power Master was the original. LiftMaster stole, it was like, almost like the two guys or something, a partnership. Somebody branched off, right? And then it turned into LiftMaster. And I thought, well, okay, that kind of makes sense, right? Power Master, LiftMaster, like, oh, I'll just change the name, but I got your technology. And it was kind of like the old Power Master stayed behind, right? Like they stayed with the old tried and true 350 Chevy, the 69, what were we talking about here? The 69 something Camaro or whatever, you know. And like when I was looking at even like their gate operators, um, they looked real primitive. And I like that for some customers. Yes, there is times when you get those customers that want, the Wi-Fi and stuff. But, for us in Michigan, we don't get a lot of that. We don't get a lot of people that they just want to push a button. They want a timer to close. They want a keypad. They want a garage door remote that opens and closes it. And some of the stuff, you got accessories that you can put on your door opener or your door itself that'll tell you if your door is open or not, versus getting all this high tech stuff. We just don't run into it as much as some of the other areas. So it's been, I don't know, but it might be something to consider. I think it was, oh man, I forget how I used to deal with a Devon or something like that. And he was a super nice guy. I mean, he would email me, they treated me like family. Like it wasn't like I wasn't dealing with a bunch of people. I'd place my order with him through an email, and he would ship it out. One time we had one issue, and I can't say that was their fault or not, but they didn't send us rails for T style or a trolley style commercial opener, remember? And so that was a little bit of a pain. I forget what they did. They made it right. It wasn't like they tried charging us or anything. But the problem was it kind of delayed the job. You know what I mean? We went to go install the doors. we didn't have the rails to put up the opener, so we had to go back for another trip. It wasn't the end of the world, but it was just one of those things I could tell with them and with my particular business that I told myself I need to make sure I have more things in stock. Like I need to have the stuff way in advance and I got to go through it. And you almost need to like, I don't even think, I'm pretty sure Power Master doesn't have, I never asked them. I don't think they have any residential. I was just going to see if I could type it in as residential. 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 I don't think they have any residential products. No, it doesn't look like it. From what I can tell, it's all commercial. But with your residential stuff, obviously you could go a Genie, you could go a LiftMaster. But with the commercial stuff, oh man, that DC stuff, I don't know. What really turns me off is I come across too many gate operators. Uh, I just went and buy one last night. Um, we had this customer that had these swing gates, and they were always problematic. The company that installed them would not come back. They weren't even like 3 years old yet. And whatever it was, we replaced the circuit board. We did some diagnosing. We got them running at one time. The guy just kept having problem after problem with them. I went back, it looked like the other side needed a circuit board. And then it was like the side that we did, it was just becoming too much money. And the guy's like, well, what do I do? And I was like, well, I said, honestly, I said, I would have never installed this product. I said, because this is just kind of what we run into too. I said, when we deal with Lanier, I said, for at least the gate operators, I said, we have really good luck. And he just said, you know what? Basically, he's like, I'm just going to leave them open. He goes, I can't keep putting all this money. I've already, I paid for these things 3 years ago. I put thousands of dollars into them. I wanted this to basically, secure the property, for my family. And I literally drove by there last night and I seen they're still open. And I thought, that's a bummer. Like I almost wanted to tell him, say, look, hey, I got a piece of property that needs some gate. Like, how about I take yours and you buy some new ones and I won't charge you no labor. And it's really silly, obviously, on my end, but I just thought like these kind of gate operators need somebody that can nurture them all the time because they're very problematic. But I've seen where I went to it was a trailer park and they were using this gate operator for their trash. And as soon as I seen the setup, I went, oh my gosh, this is a horrible setup because a trailer park, I mean, it's a big trailer park. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of units. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to keep people from the outside coming in and use their dumpsters, right? So, I mean, how this, I mean, think about mom and grandma and husband and kids. And, I mean, this gate is just open and close, open and close, open and close. And it had that DC motor. And I looked at that little DC motor and I kept thinking, I don't know. And it had some stinky little belt on it. And I thought, this thing looks horrible. Like, I mean, I would never, this is not how I'd set this up because I just thought this thing is working its hiney off. It's ridiculous. So that's where I get a bad taste with DC motors. And even the Lanier one I did for that, it was the heck was it? Come on, Dave. It was a repo yard. I thought, oh, because I asked her, I said, hey, do you guys lose power? And she's like, oh, occasionally, quite a bit actually, blah, blah, blah. So I made sure I put battery backup, and the only way I could do battery backup was on with a DC motor. So I installed this thing, and the way it would act and start, and it would glitch out because it was taking too many voltages because obviously it would get hit with snow up here in Michigan. And it just, I got it finally turned up enough, but the learning curve with it, I told myself, you know what? I'm not doing this again. Like I won't go with this DC to go with this battery backup. I'd rather just go to a better cabinet for one. If they lose power, you can easily get into the cabinet to disconnect it. But the battery backup just, I've even seen some of the LiftMaster. Maybe you guys have had problems with them or not, but LiftMaster residentials. I've had them where they start just freaking out. The batteries, I think you got to replace the batteries. What is it? You guys reminded me of what is it? Every 3 or 5 years or something? Who does that? You know what I mean? Like, unless you got them on a preventative maintenance schedule and you got the documents of when you installed it for them, so you can go in there and tell them. And I've just had where they don't work. The customers will always tell me, they'll freak out. I've had one. I remember the guy who said it'll go up halfway and then just stops. And I'm like, well, how many times you run it? And he's like, once. I'm like, "Ooh, uh, that battery backup's working pretty good, isn't it?" And so I remember we screwed around with it for a while to try to get it fixed. And I think he just finally ended up living with it and just said, screw it, I'll disconnect it or something. And then the Chamberlain, and it's lasted them 10 years. Oh, that's cool. That's good, man. Like I said, sometimes it's kind of like, some of you guys ever remember the old Stanley? I got a Stanley I want to tear apart for a video. Those old Stanley the yellow Stanley, openers. Those things were like give or take, right? I come across those. Some were like 20 years old. And then I used to come across some that were like 5 years old, and they had the knobs in the bottom. And it always seemed like if you turned the knob, you were done. Like, it would go down, it would start bucking, it would do all kinds of weird things. And it was like, oh, what did I do? And something would snap and crack and pop because everything's plastic gears in them. And you basically would destroy it. So, like, I always remember I got to the point where I would like literally like take a bolts out of the J arm to adjust it or adjust it on the door. Cause I'm like, I will not touch the limits on this old Stanley. I know this too well. And I'm going to mess with it. And then the customers be like, I don't understand why this thing's been working all great for this many years. And I thought, I'm not going to be the one that it breaks on them or breaks on me. And they're going to go, you ruined my opener, and I'd be like, I'm sorry. Oh, it just started beeping. Oh, nice. Oh, that's cool. Like I said, if they I know they got that weird beep and stuff to them. They slow down. I don't know. They just do some weird stuff that's kind of always a little bit on the weird side. But hey, if you guys got any questions or anything, go ahead and freely ask. Like I said, I'll probably get about another 5-10 minutes. I'm gonna jump off because I gotta keep the rest going, hoping through the new year, we get through this new year, I'll be raring to go again because, man, this thing has whipped my butt, this sickness. Oh, Burrs, would you recommend putting in for residential? Where do I go with that one? So I still think LiftMaster and Genie are probably your best options. I think it just depends on what you don't have problems with, in a nutshell. You know what I mean? Like, if you're starting to see a lot of callbacks with a certain issue, then you gotta steer a different way. But it's tough because, so my like, for example, right? For one of my residential, I want bulletproof. Um I don't want to babysit this thing. I don't know why. I'm still a Genie screwdrive fanboy. I don't know why. I don't know why. Um, I've dealt with the belts on LiftMaster. I've dealt with the belts on Genies. I've dealt with chain, I've dealt with them all. And I just like the screwdrives. I don't know why. Do I have a slight hesitation that I know that a circuit board could go bad on me? Yep. Do I believe that Genies are a little more susceptible to lightning strikes or power outages and that? Yep, I am. And do I believe that if you have any kind of issues, you just change out the head? Yep. I'm not tearing it apart. I'm not putting parts into it. I'm just going to tear it and then I'll worry about it. I will donate it. I will send it across the state to a young kid that likes to rebuild them. Um, because I just don't want to deal with it. Um, so that's just me. And I always like the idea in my head that no moving parts are on the outside to some degree. Does that make sense? Like we know the trolley runs on the bottom of stuff, right? But some of the Chamberlains like you get from the store, they got that box. I don't like that because if that thing bucks and you got it up against the wood, I've had it where it's caught the wood, rafters and stuff. Um, I always like the option of like I can slam this up against the ceiling pretty much if I have to. Um, and I don't have to worry about any moving parts or a ceiling that's drooping or something. Um, so I think that's why, and I like the C channel basically of the genies. Um, but I think LiftMaster's got more bells and whistles. You want camera, you want something that looks nice, you want Wi-Fi. I think their stuff's more fine-tuned for all that kind of stuff. I think it's easier, more user-friendly. Um, but I've had a Genie screwdriver bail me out so many times. Like when I was doing a lot of the 8500s and I kept fighting with them and I was like, this is stupid. I'd put a Genie screwdriver in there and it was like, I still have this one guy. It's whatever, 6+ years later now. And he just never called me again. You know what I mean? Where I was like, he was constantly every couple months, like texting me, hey, this thing's screwed up again. Can you come fix it? Um, and I had a guy up north that had a little bit bigger door. I think it was 14 tall, and he didn't want a commercial, and then he wanted like an outside keypad. He was a little bit more on the residential side, but he had a commercial style barn, and he's one of those guys that had my direct number that would just blow my crap up. I know it, and he was, oh, yeah, an hour and 15 minutes one way. And I just said, you know what? I don't want this guy. He's too far away. Now the only one caveat to it though is I remember I lost one of the clips to interlock the shaft, the screwdriver together, and wow, was that a nightmare? And now that can be avoided if you carry spare parts. I didn't have any spare parts, and I was freaking out. None of the Lowe's or Home Depot had that model anymore. Um, all they had was like belt or chain, and I was freaking out because I couldn't find that part. And I remember I think I got a coffee or something, maybe a hot chocolate. And I finally stood there and I just told myself, well, I'm screwed. I'm screwed. I guess I'm driving back to Muskegon. And I got the wife on the other line. I'm like, it's in the shop. Look under here. Look here. Look here. Look here. Look at this truck and look at this truck and this and that and this bin. And I remember I was just like doing weird things. Like I would sit on top of the ladder like I was a bird. And I'd sit there and act like a hawk. Hurr, hurr. And all of a sudden something in the corner of my eye caught it. Somehow it fell on the table and I must have kicked it and it got put under a little like something of the guy's stuff there. I was like, there it is. And I found it and I was like, why don't they put this in like a huge red bag or something? Those sons of guns. They just cost me all this. I think I even left the job site going to some of the stores. And I'm thinking, how do I make this little spring clip? All I need is this little spring clip. I mean, like at least with like Chamberlain, or something if it's a chain, right? It's a master clip. I mean, master clips are pretty common, right? You probably go to Ace Hardware and get a master clip or break the chain or, something of that nature. I mean, belts obviously a little different, but I just remember that one little piece that connected them. And I was like, I'm done. I'm done. I just drove up here on the weekend for nothing. That was awesome. Like, I'm so glad this is going to get me farther ahead for the week. Nope. But I did find it. It's that's funny. Crasher guy says, I remember that video. Yeah. So, I think even with that job, the guy had a plywood OSB ceiling, and I think they'd make clips for him, and I didn't have them because I found out after through my vendor. But I think I remember putting screws right through the trolley itself, which, I ain't gonna say is the best thing to do because it kind of tweaks it and stuff a little bit. But the fact that I could do it, and I thought, well, like, how do you do this on a T-rail or something? Like, I can't like just slam it to the ceiling and then make supports for it, because the problem was I seen when it was running, it was kind of doing the whoop, whoop, whoop when it was running because it was such a long trolley on it. But they're, I think because obviously too, um, when I was coming up in the garage door business, I came across a lot, especially those old Genie, the redheads or blackheads even. And people would break garage door springs and they wouldn't even know it. The door opener, which I'm not saying is a good thing, it would keep running. And they'd break a second spring, right? And now by that time, it would destroy the top panel. And people were like, I don't know what happened. And I'm like, well, obviously you broke a spring. It's not real common for two springs to break at the same time. I'm not saying it can't happen, but it's just not real common. But one broke, and probably the second one broke a couple weeks later or whatever. And I said, this thing just started destroying, you know, and I would remember seeing that, that thing would still like crank that door up and down. And I always just remember thinking, dude, that's super impressive to see this Genie screwdriver opener just eating this thing up, right? And the door's all folded in, which is, like I said, is not good. But that just like the thing would not stop. And so I never worried about like some of the settings or, is it going to slip the tooth? And what's really weird is I still haven't to this day on their newer trolleys. I haven't replaced one yet. On those old ones, I did. I did a lot of those ones with the aluminum trolley with the shaft or with the screw inside there that you needed grease, and it had the plastic with the other just a half screw looking thing on it. Those would get chewed up. But I replaced a lot of those, and I replaced a lot of the couplers because all of a sudden they'd run, but they weren't moving the shaft. They'd burn up those couplers, and it was like the coupler used to be just plastic, and then they went plastic, but then they put a metal ring around it almost to give it more strength. So I remember doing quite a few of those, and I remember sometimes on those old Genies, they were weird. Sometimes they get like a weird glitch in them if they sat long enough. And I remember I have to go up and push the limits, like hold it and then have somebody almost like push the button or program a remote. And then to make it like move, like they just get locked in one spot in the trolley. It wouldn't move. It was weird. Like you push the button, it's like, oh, this thing must be dead. And it's like, no, it's like, it's almost like it doesn't know where it's at. So you'd have to go up and either push, the open limit and just hold it, and then it would fire up. And there was just little tricks to it, but I don't know why. I just ran into that whole Genie screwdriver where I just thought, I really, like some of those older lift masters, I like those, the mechanical limits. Um, I see a couple of them still coming across like on Facebook and that people are selling, and I'm like, I want one of those. Like those are just good old openers. So, but I don't know. I just still can't get on. Like I get upset with Liftmaster for going with that whole circuit board, and I'll never forget the Marine. I go to his house, and I'm 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 at this house, right? It's probably a multi-million dollar house up here in Michigan. We don't have a lot of those, and I remember I get in the garage, right? I'm doing the happy dance. I'm like, oh yeah, this job is badass. Like we're gonna be in and out of this place in no time. And I remember for whatever reason, the guy had a plaque out by his door, right? And they had those old school round ones, the white buttons that tell you that they're garage door button, push the center or whatever. And one of them was left behind. And that one was for this fourth stall. Right? I have no idea why this building didn't get the last garage door opener at the same time, right? Like it's a 4-stall or 5-stall garage. I can't remember. It was a lot. But there was one stall that was like closest to the door, to the house door, that did not have an opener on it. I don't know why. I have no clue why. It's almost like somebody said, that one I'm going to use by hand because that one I'm just going to leave open for fresh air or something. I don't know. And we started tearing into it, right? And that was just when LiftMaster changed over. And I kept remember looking at the units right in the sky, and I'm thinking, oh, these ones, those are the older models, right? But this is the newer ones, got the self-learning limits and stuff. And first thing I noticed was he's got crown molding. I mean, big crown, like 8-inch crown molding around the ceiling. Everything's finished in here. And I realized that the photo eyes have been cut completely flush. I have no idea why. It's almost like somebody went, this one will never have a garage door opener. I don't want these ugly wires sitting here while I'm sitting in my lawn chair. And they completely clipped them right off flush with the wall. Okay, like no big deal, right? You got to carry on. So I remember we start tearing into it. We ended up trying to pry into the wall to get just a little bit. I'm thinking, oh, it's just got pushed in there, right? Like they'll come out. Nope. And then that darn wall button. Every garage door had a wall button by the door. Like you just reach around the track and push the button, or up by that man door to go in the house. And like I said, a beautiful plaque. I couldn't get the wall, so I finally knock on the door. I said, "Hey, man," I said, "I can't. What do you want me to do about these photo eyes?" Just mount them up above, I guess. And this guy acted. I mean, just I don't even know how to describe it. You know what I mean? Just almost like Jesus. Whatever. You don't know what the hell you're doing. Just go ahead and just mount them above. Fine. And I didn't really want to because they looked ugly. You know what I mean? But I'm like, oh crap, man, I gotta mount these photo eyes above. So I do that. And I'm hoping this is like the last interaction I got with this guy. And then finally I get to the wall button and I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do? I know you can do it. You can get the remote one or whatever. But the problem is I don't want to deal with batteries. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I can't wire it into that wall button because that's the dry contact type. I got to have actually and like I said, he's got this plaque for it. And I'm like, holy jeez. So now what do I do? Do I put the wall button down by the door? The one that's got the circuit board on it? Or do I put it up by the door? Which one makes more sense? So I'm like, So I remember I knocked on the door, right? And this, I mean, like I said, he's like an ex-Marine, big dude, man. Bald, just shade. I mean, comes out and I'm, knocking on the door again. And he's like, what do you need? And he's like, got this thing working yet? And he's like pushing the button. And I'm like, hey, sir. Yeah. Here's the problem. I mean, now it's like this guy's like, dude, do you have any freaking clue what you're doing? And I'm like, boy, my vendor, my garage door company out there, boy, they really put me in a hard spot, And so I said, this is how it works. So there's this new one. I said, and I mean, I'm literally like to the point where I'm just like, I want to be like, hey, mister, how about I take the garage door stuff back down? I'm going to take this down. This job is going to be an absolute loss, waste of time, no money to be made here, but I got to make it right. How about I'm going to take this back? I'm going to go home tonight. I'm going to spend, 2 or 3 hours on eBay. Hopefully I order a good unit. Might have to be slightly used. Maybe there's still one out there. Somebody's still got in the back of the warehouse. It's actually new. And I'm just going to order one off eBay. And now I got one that I've already opened, and it's slightly used, and it's like I'm going to have to be the next guy that does it, right? Because I can't send this out with one of the guys because now it's going to be a phone call to me. Hey, where's the J bar? And I'd be like, what do you mean? Where's the J bar? It should be in the box, well, of course you send me with this product. I went to the customer. They already seen it was open, so they're already asking me questions. Why is this open? Like, what is this? Give me the junky one, But anyways, I followed through. I asked the guy, I think I ended up putting the wall button by the garage door, which I thought was a horrible, like now he's going to have to put like slippers on or something, or his flip flops and walk down to the door to open this thing. But one of those jobs, right? It was such a great job, right? It was a beautiful clean, and I was so happy. And I thought, oh, we're gonna be in and out. And then all it took was because LiftMaster decided to change their circuit board crap. The photo eyes, yes, that wasn't really their fault, but that wall button. And I had that wall button bite me at another location where the guy that was kind of my foreman, he told me because I forget if it got damaged or it was just something was, I don't know if it was our fault or from the vendor. And I was like, oh, I got a doorbell. And he goes, it won't work with that. And I'm like, ah, it'll work. I'm like, dude, we're out in Timbuktu. Like, we can't, like, we got to make this work, you know? And he's like, I'm telling you. And we hooked it up. And I mean, I'm just sitting there clicking. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I'm like, there's no override. There's no like a switch. There's no way to take the cover off and, unplug one wire, plug one wire in. Like, you're killing me here. Like, that's the old try and true, man. I mean, and then sometimes I'd go to guys, these old boys. I remember one in particular. He would literally have a key, right? And he'd come out there and he had that thing. You guys probably ever see them, right? That are attached to your belt buckle. And it's got a recoil on it. It's got a cable. And I mean, this guy's been carrying this key around for 40 years, right? And he comes out there and he's all shaking and that's how I've opened my garage door since I've bought this house back in 69. And he turns that key, and it doesn't work. And he looks at me and he goes, "What the hell did you do?" And I said, "Oh," I said, um, well, sir, here, these new garage door openers, yeah, they don't really quite work that way anymore. You really need like a what we call an outside keypad. I don't need no damn outside keypad. I've used this key, blah blah blah. You hook my key up. And I think we ended up changing the opener out to dry contact. So probably a Genie because all that guy cared about was that damn key working. I can't blame him. I mean, it's kind of like HomeLink, right? When HomeLink was having their issues, and I had to go to that customer, and he's like, "You mean to tell me that opener from the '80s that worked in my Cadillac, and then now you just install this one as 2000 whatever?" He says it won't link to my car, and I'm like, "Nope." I'm like, you need an accessory, and it's another 40 or $69 or $79, whatever it was. And he was like, yeah, you can leave. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, this is embarrassing as hell to be at a customer's and you can't make it work. You know what I mean? Like it's sad. It's sad when it's like, could you imagine going to somebody now, like installing like a TV and you're like, oh, this is the new energy efficient TV. Doesn't take batteries. And you're like, huh? Yeah. It's called you get off your ass and you go turn the channel by hand on the TV and they go, well, I don't want that. I want to have a remote. Oh no, no, you don't want that. You know what I mean? Like that's how it felt. Like it was like, no, you get up now and you turn wait, we had it before where a remote with batteries and it worked fine. And I really enjoyed it. Now you're telling me I got to get up? Oh no, I'm good. Take it back. So I don't know. Maybe it's not that big a deal. I've had some people say, "Hmm, one of our big competition around here, um, back in the day, they actually ended up changing from LiftMaster. This was I heard. This was quite a few years ago, but they actually dropped LiftMaster, went to Genie because they of the dry contacts. So could be true, might not be true. All right, guys, I think I'm jumping off here. My throat is raw. I'm glad you guys were here. Hope everybody has a good New Year's. If I don't talk to you before then, shoot me up with those emails, the daveadubson at gmail.com. You can always, if you got my number, shoot me a text too. Otherwise, we'll see you on the next one. Hope you guys have a good weekend. Be safe. Don't do nothing too crazy. Don't be drinking and driving. Adds up to no good. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.